Hello, prospective listeners. My name is Michael J. Cortez. I am a graduate student at National American University, as well as hello to Dr. Ackerman, who will be reviewing this assignment as part of fulfillment for my Learning Plan 5 public policy proposal assignment. This is for the course Law and Public Policy, course number CJ 6100. Just a little bit about myself before we begin. I am a 34-year-old veteran police officer in the state of Texas. I have 14 years of experience as an officer. I am a certified master peace officer in the state. I'm also certified through the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement as an instructor. I am also employed as an adjunct instructor at South Texas College, located in McAllen, Texas, with the Law Enforcement Training Division. I am a South Texas College graduate of 2014 and 15 with an associate's degree of applied science in law enforcement studies, as well as a Bachelor of Applied Science degree in organizational leadership studies. I maintained a 4.0 GPA throughout my time there. I am also a prospective graduate from National American University this fall, actually in a couple of weeks, with my master's degree of management with an emphasis on criminal justice. So going forward with today's presentation and as part of fulfillment for this assignment, I have identified a topic for public policy proposal, and that topic is prison population, incarceration rate, and prison or jail overcrowding in the United States. Today I would like to present certain objectives and hope that the leader gains an analysis and understanding of the prison population in America, a breakdown of the states with highest incarceration rates and the most prisoners. I want the reader to have an understanding of the crimes committed that lead to long-term incarceration. I want to show an analysis of prison conditions in America, also an analysis of the root causes of jail overcrowding, and I'm going to lastly propose a short policy to assist with jail overcrowding. Regarding the prison population in America, the American prison system is the most active system in the world and has incarcerated more individuals than any other country, any other established country. The United States prison system has, in raw numbers and in percentage of population, the most prisoners of any country in the world, and that population, at least on the federal or within federal prisons, is growing in size. And although none of these numbers are exact, due to the flow of prisoners in and out of these systems daily, it is estimated that over 2 million incarcerated individuals are there for long-term stays or as part of our jail system at any given time period. So I want to briefly discuss the states with the highest incarceration rates and the number of prisoners, or the states with the most prisoners. The top three states, as far as incarceration rates go, is number one, the state of Louisiana. It incarcerates 816 people per every 100,000 in the state. This was data from the year 2014. Number two would be the state of Oklahoma, which incarcerates 700 people per every 100,000 in the state. And the third highest state with in regards to incarceration rate is the state of Alabama, which incarcerates 634 people per every 100,000 persons in that state. As far as the top three states with the most prisoners, you probably guessed it, Texas is number one. The state of Texas naturally has the most prison population due to its large size and surface area, which drives up the general population naturally. The approximate inmate population in the state of Texas is 157,251 inmates. Next would be the state of California, which has an approximate inmate population of 129,205 inmates. And third would be the state of Florida, which has an approximate inmate population of 101,424 inmates. That information was taken from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. This is from 2016. And so you ask what crimes could ultimately land you in a long-term state of incarceration here in the United States. This data is from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and this is for the month of October 2017. This table here represents the number of inmates and a percentage of inmates total for that month, and the different types of crimes that they committed. So at the top of that list there would be drug offenses. That's a total of 80,353 inmates. Next, we see offenses regarding or involving weapons, explosives, or arson. And then third on that list would be sexual offenses or sex offenses. So drug offenses are often categorized as nonviolent offenses. The majority of prisoners in our jail systems are incarcerated or being incarcerated for long durations of time for drug possession or other drug-related offenses. Drugs such as marijuana are of recent times stated to have a more positive effect than negative, as they are often prescribed and used for medicinal purposes. Several states have recently passed into law the allowance of personal use of marijuana in public, and I predict, going forward in the future that the majority of other states will also pass such laws. This trend could help to relieve some of the prison population being, or some of those inmates being housed for those nonviolent offenses. So I wanted also to briefly touch and speak about prison conditions in America. Among the growing trends and related to the scrutiny of jail overcrowding is the public and government scrutiny of prison facilities in the United States. Illegal activity, sexual assaults, and abuse, as well as other types of violence toward offenders in the prison system, are root causes of overall issues with poor conditions within U.S. prison systems. Gang activity also runs rampant in prisons. And amongst those previously mentioned issues, a major issue stems from the incarceration of inmates that have diagnosed or that have been diagnosed with mental disabilities, and questions have been raised asking if the prison systems are doing enough to properly treat those individuals. Prisoners with mental health issues often experience heightened problems with their disorders while incarcerated, as they do not receive the medical attention they need in a timely manner, and sometimes don't even receive attention at all. Prisons should not be a substitute for hospital care. So some of the root causes of prison overcrowding in the U.S. Stem from an increased number of cases being filed by police agencies for law violations, but obviously they have to do their job. They are there to enforce the laws. The court's inability to turn those cases over fast enough in trying the individuals in court, the defendant's inability to make bail in said cases, leaving them waiting in local and state jail facilities, waiting for their trial dates, harsh sentences for nonviolent offenses, harsh sentences for habitual offenders of nonviolent and other type offenses, failure or inability to outsource prisoners to privately owned jail facilities due to budget constraints or caps, failure to establish programs which work to rehabilitate individuals in being productive back in society. In developing policy and moving toward the future in regard to these issues within the prisons, as a form of helping the cause without releasing criminals back into the general public with lighter sentences, law enforcement managers and state officials could begin analysis on outsourcing prisoners to privately owned facilities to overcome jail crowding. Such facilities should be regulated by the same regulations and laws that state and federal facilities have to abide by. Funding, and which facilities are to be used or contracted would have to further be discussed. Statewide regulated and taxed legalization of marijuana in personal amounts could be discussed, and studies and information gathered from states which have already implemented this would conclude possible revenue and safety data to support this. This could in turn fund the outsourcing of prisoners to private facilities, as well as release nonviolent marijuana violators out of incarceration, thus minimizing a staggering number of the prison population. The police, courts, and correctional facilities could also better collaborate or communicate with one another to evaluate the overall causes of the increasing prison population. It is also a common misconception that each of these branches of the criminal justice system work hand in hand with one another, but I can tell you from experience in law enforcement that there are gaps and flaws in communication between these branches at every level. Further establishment of halfway houses, work release, and probation or parole monitoring systems to reintroduce some offenders back to society should also be considered and evaluated for possible implementation. And lastly, when we think about policy implementation or proposal of this policy, we want to start with local law enforcement agencies to include local and district or county level court representatives and judges to gain a solid backing for such policy implementation. Once a proper ground has been solidified, the introduction of such research ideas with data to support the proposal will be made to local, state, and federal representatives for review and consideration. Well, guys, you, the viewers, I want to thank you for your time and thank you for listening to this short presentation regarding policy implementation due to issues stemming from prison overcrowding, or 4 issues stemming from prison overcrowding. Here listed is a couple of sources that I use, or places where I gathered information for this presentation. You can also contact me and voice your opinion, or just speak about any important topics in criminal justice or law enforcement with me at these outlets here. You can contact me through email or look me up on Facebook. So again, thank you for your time.